Welcome to the Kids Bedtime Stories channel. You are listening to a story from the series Millie and the Ribbon Bridge. This is episode 5, The Starlit Meadow of Courage. If you enjoy our stories, please consider subscribing. Sit comfortably, take a calm, steady breath, and let Millie guide you to a place where the night shines with its own light. Let us begin. The golden glow of the river lingered behind Millie like a warm trace upon water. The farther she walked, the more the light began to change. It did not vanish suddenly. Instead, it shifted slowly, as if someone were blending colors across the sky. Gold softened into amber, amber into rose, and rose into deep blue. The air felt fresh, not cold, just lighter, in the way it becomes when day gently yields to evening. Millie walked across soft grass. The blades bent beneath her steps, then lifted again, as though the meadow were a vast living carpet that refused to be crushed. The first star appeared in the sky, then a second, then a third. And when Millie raised her gaze higher, she noticed something extraordinary. The stars were not only above her, they were below as well. Before her stretched a wide meadow, and among the grasses hovered tiny points of light, not lanterns, not flames, rather like little stars that had drifted downward to rest close to the earth. Millie stopped. This realm was quiet, not like the quiet of mist, where silence carries mystery. Here, the quiet was soft, like a blanket, as though night had gently laid it across the meadow, so everything could breathe more peacefully. The bracelet at Millie's wrist shimmered faintly. 4 knots, the listening knot, the calm knot, the clarifying knot, and the gratitude knot, glowed gently, each holding its own kind of light. Millie stepped further into the meadow, and then one of the small lights near her foot trembled. It dimmed, not completely, but as if it hesitated. Millie knelt down. The glowing point looked like a tiny star caught between blades of grass. It quivered slightly, as though trying to decide whether it wished to shine or not. "Hey," Millie whispered. "Are you all right?" The little light flickered. "I don't know," it answered softly. Millie blinked. "You don't know what?" "Whether I should shine." For a moment, Millie did not know what to say. She glanced around. Other stars were shining, some brighter, some fainter. Some hovered higher above the grass. Others nearly touched the blades. But all of them seemed a little uncertain, as though in this realm, light was not something taken for granted. "Why wouldn't you shine?" Millie asked gently. The small star dimmed further. Because that one shines brighter, it whispered. Millie looked up. Not far away, a larger star hovered. It did glow more brightly, its radiance stretching wider. She looked back at the small one. But you shine beautifully, Millie said. It's not the same, the star replied. My light is small. Something inside Millie softened. A gentle ache. It felt familiar. Not fear, more like doubt. From a darker stretch of meadow came another whisper. My light is small too. Sometimes I don't shine at all. Better not to shine than to shine badly. The words were not cruel. They sounded as though they had been repeated for a long time. Millie slowly rose. She took a few steps forward, and then she noticed something else. Darker bands stretched through the grass, as if the meadow had pathways. But those pathways were fading because the light along them was dimming. Millie paused. Is it always this dark here? She asked. The small star answered, It used to be brighter. When? Millie asked. The star hesitated. When no one compared. Millie looked around. In the distance, upon a gentle rise, a cluster of brighter light shimmered, as though many stars gathered together. It looked like the heart of the meadow. And suddenly, Millie felt something more. A faint sound. Not rustling, not wind, like the softest ringing inside the light itself. Her bracelet answered with a gentle warmth, as if it whispered, There. Millie stepped toward the rise. The darker strip of grass beneath her feet was nearly invisible. She had to walk carefully, not because danger threatened, but because it was hard to see exactly where to place her steps. You see, whispered the small star, when it's darker, it's easy to lose your way. Millie looked at it. What if you shone even a little? Would it help? The star trembled. Maybe, it said. But what if my light isn't enough? Millie thought of herself, of her first step onto a cloud, of the question she asked the mist, of the gratitude she offered the river. In each place, something had whispered, what if it isn't enough? And yet, she had walked forward. Millie smiled gently. We'll see, she said. Come with me. How can I walk? The star asked, as though truly unsure. You don't have to walk, Millie replied. Just shine beside me. The little star brightened slightly. Not strongly, but enough for the grass around them to become clearer. Millie took another step and another. The darker stretch of meadow was still difficult, but now she had at least a little light. Then, from her right, she heard a soft laugh. Not loud, more like someone smiling inside the quiet and not wishing to disturb it. From the grass where the light was thickest, a figure emerged. She did not leap out. She did not startle Millie. It was as if the meadow simply made space. Her gown resembled the night sky, deep blue yet filled with tiny points of light. Her hair shone like stars just above the horizon. When she moved her hand, a faint trail of brilliance lingered in the air. "Welcome, Millie," she said softly. Millie stopped, surprised that she was known. "How do you—" she began. The figure smiled. "The stars see more than you think." Millie knew at once that this must be the fairy of this realm. "You are the Starlit Meadow Fairy," she finished calmly. "Guardian of this meadow." Millie looked at the dimming stars. "Why are they fading?" The fairy gazed toward the darker bands of grass. "Because they began to believe that their light must be perfect," she said quietly. "And when they try to be perfect, they would rather not shine at all." Millie felt something stir within her. This would be more than a simple conversation, because if the light continued to fade, the path across the meadow would disappear. The darkest stretch of the meadow began only a few steps ahead. It was not a forest. It was not a cliff. It was simply a place where there was less and less light. The stars hovering above the grass floated lower, as if they no longer had the strength to rise. Some dimmed for a moment. Others flickered unevenly, their glow trembling. Millie looked at the Starlit Meadow Fairy. "Is it always this dark there?" she asked. The fairy shook her head. "No. When the stars shine without comparing themselves, even the night is bright." And now, the fairy turned her gaze toward the rise where the glow had once been strongest. Now each one wonders whether it shines well enough. One of the stars above them dimmed. "I don't want to be the weakest," it whispered. "I don't want to shine crookedly," said another. "My light is too small." Millie felt the ground beneath her feet become harder to read. The grass in the darker band looked the same as everywhere else, but without light, it was difficult to see where one tuft ended and another began. She took a careful step, then another. Her foot caught on a hidden stone. She wavered slightly, but kept her balance. It wasn't dangerous, but it was uncertain. "You see," one of the stars murmured, "when we shine less, it's easier to stumble." Millie looked at it. "What if you tried shining just a little brighter?" she asked. "And what if it's still less than hers?" the star replied, pointing toward the brighter glow on the hill. Millie raised her eyes. On the gentle rise One star indeed hovered higher and brighter than the others. Its light was clearer, more focused. She lights first every night, the fairy explained softly. The others look at her and begin to measure themselves. And her? Millie asked. The fairy hesitated. She measures herself too. At that very moment, the larger star upon the hill trembled, its glow dimmed by a shade. If I'm not the brightest, it whispered, then perhaps I shouldn't shine at all. Something tightened inside Millie. No, she said quietly. It's not because of you. The stars trembled. It's because you've stopped believing that your light is enough. The fairy watched her carefully. Millie lifted her head toward the hill. The larger star was now very faint. Come, Millie said, even if it's dark. And she stepped forward. This time, she did not wait for the light to appear. She stepped despite the dimness. One small star near her foot flared slightly brighter. She's walking, it whispered, even though she can't see everything, even though she isn't shining the strongest. Another star brightened. The path was not yet clear, but it was no longer invisible. The fairy walked beside Millie, not above her, not ahead of her, beside her. Courage, she said softly, is not being the brightest. Millie kept her eyes forward. It's shining when it's darker than you'd like, she replied. The rise was close now, but the largest star at its crest flickered more weakly with every moment. Just a little longer, and it might go out. The rise was just before them now. The grass whispered softly as it swayed, and the stars above it flickered unevenly. The largest of them, the one that always lit first each evening, hovered over the crest like the final spark of twilight. Its light was very faint now. It trembled, as if deciding whether to remain. Millie felt her heart beat faster, not from fear, from the sense that this was an important moment. If she goes out, one small star began, then we will too, another added. The Starlit Meadow Fairy stopped at the foot of the hill. I tried to convince her, she said quietly. I told her she is needed. And? Millie asked. The fairy looked toward the great star. She answered that if she is not the brightest, then there is no point in shining at all. Millie felt the ground beneath her feet grow almost completely dark. The grass looked like a single stretch of deep blue shadow. It was difficult to tell one step from the next. The largest star trembled, its glow dimmed further. A soft whisper moved through the meadow. She will go out. It's the end of the light. Millie stepped onto the rise. She could not see every blade of grass clearly, but she walked slowly, carefully. She heard her own breathing. She felt the warmth of the 4 knots at her wrist. They were not dazzling. They were not the strongest light in the meadow, but they were steady. She stopped beneath the largest star. She looked up. "Why do you want to go out?" she asked gently. The star quivered. "Because when I shine less brightly than I once did, the others look at me," it whispered. "And I don't want to be the one who failed." Millie was silent for a moment. Then she said calmly, "I don't always shine the brightest either." The star hesitated. "But I keep walking," Millie added, "even when my light is small." She looked down at her bracelet. The listening knot reminded her to listen to herself. The calm knot reminded her that breath can stay steady even in half light. The clarifying knot reminded her to ask instead of assume. The gratitude knot reminded her that light returns when you notice it. But now, this was not listening, not questioning, not gratitude. This was something simpler. Millie took a slow, steady breath. She did not try to shine more brightly. She did not try to be brighter than the great star above her. She simply allowed her own light to be. The bracelet brightened, not suddenly, not like an explosion, like a calm, constant glow. The largest star trembled. "But that isn't the strongest light," it said uncertainly. "It doesn't have to be," Millie replied. At that moment, the story string stirred at her wrist. Threads of light lifted gently. A new knot began to form, unlike the others. Not a ray, not a drop. Fine lines crossed at several points, shaping something like a small star. At its center appeared a clear, steady point, not the biggest, but unwavering. A delicate sound filled the air, like a single note that does not need volume to be heard. The courage knot. Warmth flowed through the entire bracelet. The 4 earlier knots answered with a soft glow. The great star above the hill flickered, then brightened slightly, not as it once had, not the brightest in the entire meadow, but enough. One small star near the ground flared brighter. "If she can shine despite doubt," it whispered. Another answered, "Then so can I." Light began to return, not because one star was the brightest, but because none of them were trying to be someone else. The darker bands of grass brightened. The pathways became visible again. The meadow was not dazzling. It was peacefully luminous. The Starlit Meadow Fairy stepped closer to Millie. Her gown now shimmered gently, more clearly than before. "Courage," she said softly, "is not the absence of doubt." She looked up at the largest star. "It is shining while doubt stands beside you." Millie smiled. "And not comparing yourself," she added. The fairy nodded. "Every light has its place." The stars above the meadow now shone together, not identical, not even, but united. Millie looked toward the distance. On the horizon, a new outline appeared. Not night, not gold. Something different awaited. The Starlit Meadow Fairy stepped nearer. "Thank you," she said softly. "You reminded me that my light does not need to be the greatest to be needed." Millie nodded. "Your meadow is beautiful," she replied. The fairy smiled. Her form began to blend with the night's radiance. She did not vanish abruptly. She simply became part of the meadow's light. "Go on, Millie," she said one last time, "and shine in your own way." Millie looked at her bracelet. 5 knots now glowed gently. Listening, calm, questioning, gratitude, courage. She took a quiet breath and continued onward through the star-filled meadow. This was the 5th part of the series, Millie and the Ribbon Bridge. In the next episode, Millie will arrive in a place where silence holds more than peace, and a new challenge will test everything she has learned. Will another knot be formed? We will discover that in the next chapter. Thank you for listening to Kids Bedtime Stories. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe. Until next time, good night.